Hi everyone. So today we are going to be talking all about the recent news and updates in US immigration. And this is so important to me because the more you know, right, the more you know, the better you can prepare. So what I'm going to do is something a little different. Is just go over all the news and updates right at the beginning and then go into each one individually as we move on. So first, um, Department of Homeland Security, if you don't already know this, they are using AI to basically get information on you. So I'll be going into detail on what type of AI they're using, how they're using it, exactly is going on. Secondly, the Department of State, which is the embassies, are going to be using social media to vet student visa applicants. So that's the F, M, and J visas. And they're also limiting the amount of interviews that they're doing for those category of visas as well, which is most likely going to lead to some backlogs. If you have filed a VAWA application, a U visa application, or a T visa application, just know that there are delays in getting those receipt notices. And I've had people ask me, is this normal? It's been 90 days and I haven't received a receipt notice, and I filed my VAWA application or a U visa or a T visa. Just know those delays are real and it's not about your case. The fourth one, TPS for Afghanistan, is unfortunately terminated and it will become effective. So that termination will become effective July 12th of this year. And then finally, the last thing I will be covering is the ICE enforcement at USCIS interviews. They are happening. I will go into more detail on what that actually looks like in reality, right? So if you're joining me live, please say hi in the comments. I was just going over kind of an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. Say hi, ask me questions. Let's jump right in. So, the first thing we're going to cover is how the Department of Homeland Security is using AI to get information on applicants and on travelers. So this is huge. We were able to get this information. So Department of Homeland Security is not hiding the fact that they're using AI. So just know that they're not hiding this information. They are the ones giving this information out. So Department of Homeland Security includes USCIS and CBP, which is the Customs and Border Patrol. So the officers you see at the airport, the officers you see at the border, those are CBP officers and they are under the Department of Homeland Security, just like USCIS. Okay. The Department of State covers the embassy, so they are not under Department of Homeland Security. So USCIS, CBP are using facial recognition, right? I have seen this happen in a case. So they are using facial recognition. Most of these things are not new. It's just because AI has advanced so much that they're able to do more with it. Okay. Facial recognition is not new. Again, the technology has advanced, so they're able to do more with it. So first one, facial recognition. Quick example, I had a case where we went to an interview and, the officer asked my client about a travel. She traveled outside of the US and the officer, just quick question, who did you go with? What was the circumstances of your travel? And guess what? The officer had an image of her from the airport showing exactly who she traveled with. And luckily, my client had nothing to hide, and who she traveled with did not affect the case. So just know that technology is not new, it's just more advanced now. So facial recognition definitely is being used. And then the next tool is something called Babel or Babel. I'm not sure the exact spelling. It's a BABEL. So this tool basically helps DHS compile your open source information and social media information on you. So this is publicly available information on applicants. Okay, this is not things that they need a password to get into, or highly sensitive information like medical records or things like that. This is open source, meaning publicly available information about you and your social media. So this tool basically gives them information on travelers, and here's the here's the part that really takes it up a notch, is not only do they use this to get information about the travelers, this tool can also flag people that should get higher scrutiny. So if you're traveling into the US and this tool is used on you and it flags you for extra scrutiny, the officer is going to pull you aside into secondary and ask you more questions. So this tool not only gives them information, but it also helps flag people that they should do deeper inquiries into. Again, based on open source and social media. So information publicly available about you and your social media posts, usage, all those things. Anything that they can basically get through that app, they can use it to find out things about you and then use that to flag you. And then the next thing with their AI, they also have, clearly, again, this is the government. They have access to technology that we do not. So they have a mobile extraction software where, when you're traveling through the airports, I've told you, you don't really have a lot of privacy rights, right? But when it comes to your cell phone, you are not required to put in the code for the officer. If it's facial record, if it's a face ID, they can just put it up to your face. They don't need your permission. But because it is DHS, and because at the airport, even if you do not give them permission to look at your phone, they still can look at your phone. They use this mobile extraction software to basically hook it up to your phone and extract information from your phone. So they don't need your permission to look in your phone. So even if you say, no, I don't want you to look at my phone, they can still take your phone, use this mobile extraction software, and get information out of it. So again, AI is not just for, chat GPT figuring out recipes and doing that. No, when it is the government, it is going to be a higher level of use than everyone else would use. Okay. And then as far as social media, again, they're looking at your posts. And like I've said before, and will keep saying, be careful who you add as a friend on these social media platforms, because officers are creating fake accounts and, sending those friend requests out and seeing who's going to accept their friend requests so that they can get information that may not be publicly available. So if your page is private, the software, Babel, will not be able to get some of your posts. However, if you go ahead and add a USCIS officer as a friend without knowing that it's a USCIS officer, because they can do that, right? They can create fake accounts and try to get information out of you without your knowledge. So just know they can create those fake accounts and they can use that to get at you. So again, this is new information on how exactly Department of Homeland Security is using AI. So they have the facial recognition, they have the Barbell software that basically pulls open source information and social media information about you for USCIS and basically DHS use. They can also flag people that USCIS or CBP should look at deeper. They have a mobile extraction software. So even if you don't give them permission to look at your phone, they can still extract information from it, especially again if you are at a port of entry, so an airport, a land border, things like that. And then for social media, they are going to be looking at your posts that are publicly available. And then if you make your account private and they're not able to see those, they can create fake accounts and try to add you as a friend and see if you would add them. And then they'll use that to get access to your account and get the information they're looking at. Okay. And then sticking with the social media, the Department of State. So the Department of State is separate from the Department of Homeland Security. The Department of State handles the embassies, the consulates, all of that. That's under the Department of State, which also means the Department of State handles the visas. Okay. They handle who gets a visa, who gets an appointment, all of that. So with the Department of State, they're going to be for specific types of visas, right? They're going to be vetting social media accounts. Again, this is not new. I want to make this very clear. This is not new, but the weight that they're putting on these social media accounts are new. Okay. The Department of State has been asking people for their social media. So this is not new. However, they can now deny your application based on your social media posts without asking you for an explanation. And then also for the F, M, and J visas. So if you have a F, these are all student types of visas. So if you have an F, M, or J visa pending, just know the Department of State is now going to be increasing the amount of interviews. They're going to interview the people that are already scheduled and then decide if they're going to interview more people or not. So they're really going to be limiting those and then using social media to vet whether the person should even be considered for a visa in the first place. So this is, again, not entirely new. It's just how it's being applied is new with this administration. All right. The next thing for those that have a VAWA, U visa or T visa application that you sent in and you still haven't received a receipt notice and you haven't received the application back saying that something is wrong. So USCIS hasn't sent you anything saying they've received it and they haven't sent you anything saying that they've rejected it. And this is happening a lot. And for some people, you know, 60 days, you get your notice and you're like, okay, cool, let me move on. And then for other people, and I know these other people, you've been waiting 100 days, 120 days, and you're still waiting for that receipt notice because you don't know if USCIS has accepted your application or if they have rejected your application. So you're kind of in a limbo of where is my application at this point. I want to tell you that this is normal. Everyone, everyone is experiencing this. It is a known issue. Like I always say, I'm a member of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. And when I tell you that this is a known issue, right? A lot of lawyers are having the same issues. So if you have an attorney and they're telling you that the receipt notice is not in yet, and you're wondering, did they actually file my application or are they lying to me? It's not. It's not the attorney. It's USCIS. Okay. It's not the attorney. It's not you. If you're filing these applications on your own and you're wondering if you did something wrong, why am I not getting the receipt notice? You probably did nothing wrong. Okay. You may get the receipt notice in like 3 months or 4 months, but typically they eventually come. You just have to wait a very long time. So it is not you, it's them. This is one of those situations where it's not you, you didn't do anything wrong, it's other people. All right. Okay. Next one, if you're from Afghanistan and you happen to have TPS, just know that TPS for Afghanistan has been terminated and the termination will be effective on July 12, 2025. Okay. This is most likely going to lead to a lawsuit trying to keep that TPS open. However, we have to be, I tell you the real here. The president, the executive branch, has a lot of control when it comes to TPS. All right. So if they end TPS, you can sue. The courts may do something or they may not. So it's really important that people understand that not every single action is, you know, of course, is anything different in Afghanistan from when TPS was announced to now? Probably not, right? And typically you terminate TPS when there's been a positive change in the country. We haven't really seen that, but nonetheless, termination, right? So there's going to be a lawsuit. I'm going to update you if there's any changes when it comes to that. We did see a lawsuit for the work permits for Venezuelans when those were like abruptly stopped. The court opened it up for some people, but not others. It's a whole thing. There's going to be a lawsuit. I'll keep you updated. But as of now, it will be terminated as of July 12th for TPS for Afghanistan. And then finally, ICE enforcement at USCIS interviews. If you are hearing rumors or, information saying that people are being picked up at their ICE interviews, some people are. Okay, I am not going to sit here and lie to you and be like, oh no, nothing happens at ICE interviews. Everyone just goes to their interview and goes home. That's not the case. Okay, we have heard of people going to their USCIS interview where the officer actually like delays them so that ICE can get there in time to detain them. But let me give you a little bit of hope in all of this. Most people that go to their USCIS interview walk out of there and go home. Most people that have a USCIS interview walk out of the interview and go home. The times that we have seen people be detained are very specific, right? Either they have already had a deportation order, so maybe they're in there for an I-130 interview, but they already have a deportation order, their case has not been reopened, and now they go to Department of Homeland Security, which has USCIS, ICE, and CBP, all under the Department of Homeland Security, right? So you go to USCIS interview, having a final deportation order, they coordinate with ICE, and then the person gets picked up. So those are the situations that we are seeing, or someone has a criminal record. We are seeing that as well. But for the most part, right? For the most part, if you are a visa overstay, we are not seeing USCIS and ICE coordinating for detention of a visa overstay, right? So just keep that in mind as you are hearing these news or rumors and things like that, right? There's usually something else to it. So for ICE to do an enforcement at the USCIS office, there's usually more than just the person being in the US and being undocumented. Okay, there's usually more to it. But that may change in the future. But as of right now, that is what we're seeing. So is ICE enforcement happening? Yes, but for specific type of cases where people are either have a final order of deportation or they have a criminal history that makes them deportable. Okay, so it's not just having a criminal history that makes you deportable. All right, so that is all the news that I wanted to cover with you today. If you have questions, please put them in the comments. I am here to answer your questions, okay? All right. So I already see your question. What do you think of them wanting to arrest 3K people a day, but they seem to get more pushback? Will the big, beautiful bill make a big impact on their mass deportation plans if it passes? Well, what I will say is that bill gives a whole lot more money to ICE, right? Not to USCIS, not to CBP, but specifically to ICE for ICE enforcement. Okay, so yes, that is going to give them the ability to most likely hire more officers and do more enforcement. Will they get to their goal of 3K a day? Probably not, which is also why they haven't reached their goals. Remember, first 100 days, they wanted to reach a certain number of deportations. They're not even close to that because, again, the money, right? I know I said this last year when we were talking about this, but it's like the money. At the end of the day, the government only functions if there's money, right? That's why when Congress doesn't pass a bill, a spending bill, government shutdown, right? So when it comes to ICE, they have a specific budget. And that's why the big, beautiful bill is going to try to expand that budget specifically for enforcement. Will they get to their goal? Probably not, right? Probably not. They would need to, if they focus on everyone that has a final deportation order, they still would. Personally, I don't think they can do that. But that budget, that line budget is going to give them more. It's going to give them more money and give them the ability to hire more officers and do more operations of trying to arrest people. Mhm. Okay. Any chances on people trying to apply from Nigeria? Any changes on people trying to apply from Nigeria? Not really. Nigeria has been, how do I put this? Nigeria has been on a red flag list for the embassy for a very long time. Okay. And it is not, um, it's not coming off that red flag list. So it makes it harder for someone that's not doing like a family petition to get a visa out of Nigeria. So for a visiting visa to the US, especially when you're applying from Nigeria, you're going to need a whole lot more than, let's say, if you're applying from a European country. Okay. So just know that. And the reason for that is that they believe that a lot of people that come here on that B1, B2 visa end up overstaying. Right. So the more people from a specific country that overstays, the more likely that the scrutiny that people from that country get is going to go higher. So unfortunately, unfortunately, we are on a blacklist, and it is going to keep affecting new people that want to come to the US, even for a visit, because again, the people before you. It's not even people that came in the 2000s, it's the people that came in the 80s and 90s and even the 70s that never went back, that led to that. So just know you're going to have to show more for any non-immigrant visa. So for immigrant visas, they're going to look, so for a marriage-based visa out of Nigeria, you're going to want to make sure that your paperwork is um, correct. You have all the documentation for your relationship, for your marriage. You really want to have all of that ready to go. For a parent-child relationship, you need to look at the birth certificate and make sure that if it's a late registered birth certificate for the child, that you're including additional documentation that basically backs up that this is your child, even though it's a late registered birth certificate. Okay, so that's for the not immigrant visa side. Again, the people that are going to have the biggest issue are people applying for a non-immigrant visa. So those visas that is for you to come to the US for a temporary amount of time and then go back home. Those are the people that are going to have the hardest time getting visas. Not just in Nigeria, in most places, those are the people that are going to have the hardest time, especially with the heightened scrutiny, social media, the AI use, all of that is definitely going to factor in moving forward. So, not every country is going to have the same amount of scrutiny, but I can tell you right now, um, as a Nigerian native, that is unfortunately that is something that we're seeing, and that is probably not going to change anytime soon. All right. Okay, so if you have any other questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. If you're watching this and you are getting value out of this video, please hit the like button. It just lets me know and lets other people know that this is a video that they should check out. And finally, if you are looking to either get a visa to the US or you are looking to file for a family member, or for your citizenship, go ahead and schedule a strategy session with me. It is a free 15-minute session where we talk about your situation and see what your options are and how we can assist you. And you can go to my website, lilylegal.com, click on contact us, and you'll be able to select a date and time that works best for you for us to chat. Actually, if you go on my website, you can actually see my calendar and see exactly when I'm available and book it right there. All right. Let's see. Oh, I going back to the Nigeria stuff, I will be doing a video soon, kind of covering this topic, but I just want to mention it just because it's in my head and I don't want to forget. If you get a divorce from Nigeria, please, please make sure that you are using a reputable attorney over there, right? Do not just have a family member go to the courthouse and get whatever documents and send that to you. USCIS is on high alert for divorce decrees from Nigeria. Okay, high alert. Every time they see it, they question it, right? They want to make sure that it is real, it is valid. They have seen a bunch of fakes. And sometimes the person here doesn't even know that the divorce decree is fake because they sent a family member or a friend, they send them money to go to the courthouse and to do the whatever was necessary to get the divorce decree. And the person may have, court corners and didn't actually do the right work that needs to be done to get that divorce decree. And the person here does not know the difference. They just know I sent money and they gave me a divorce decree. Just know, please, before you file, especially if you have a divorce from Nigeria, a divorce decree from Nigeria, you want to make sure that you are really scrutinizing that before you file a marriage-based petition, because if the divorce is not real, if the divorce is not valid, your current marriage that you're trying to get a green card through is not valid, because you can't be married to two people at the same time. And when I tell you this can destroy marriages, this can destroy lives, I am not playing. Okay. So you really want to be careful, especially when you are getting a foreign divorce decree. Now, for those of you that don't know, if you are physically present in the US and a resident of a state, whatever state you're in, they have like a specific guideline of when you are considered a resident, right? Once you become a resident of that state, you can file for divorce in that state, regardless of where you got married. Okay. I'm not mad at y'all, but when I tell you this is frustrating, regardless of where you got married, if you are a resident of a specific state in the US, you can get divorced in that state that you live in, regardless of where you got married. So if you got married you know, in the 90s, while you were living outside of the US, I'm just going to keep using Nigeria as an example, right? Let's say you got married in Nigeria and then you moved to the US and now you want to get a divorce. What I have seen is people will send money back home and ask someone over there to go and do whatever needs to be done to do the divorce. But guess what? You are not in Nigeria. And unless the person you were married to also lives in Nigeria, that divorce is not going to be valid. So, your best bet, if you live here, regardless of where you get married, please do your divorce here. Don't send money back home for them to do it for you. Get divorced in a court in the US. That way, you know that your divorce decree is real. You know that you are legally divorced from this person and that you can move forward with your life and get married to someone else and not have USCIS come back later and tell you, oh, by the way, this divorce decree is not valid. So your marriage is not valid. Okay. You want to avoid that by all means, because sometimes you end up in a situation where you can't actually fix it, right? There's situations where you can fix it, and then there's situations where you can't. Like I said, I'm going to do a whole video on this topic because whew, I have seen things. I have seen things. But yeah, that is what a way to end the video. But that is all I have for you today. If you have questions and you're watching this on a replay, please go ahead and put your questions in the comments. I have been slacking on going back and answering those, but I will be catching up soon with all the questions and comments. So please ask me questions in the comments and I will respond to you as soon as I can. So thank you all so much, and I will see you next week for more immigration chat. Bye, y'all.